Kirby Smart was talking the other day about why recruiting is so important for him and his program and everybody else. This is what he said. We all know you are only as good as your players, and that leads you to recruiting. You got that right. I remember some time ago where there was a lot of discussion in the Georgia community that how well Georgia was recruiting under Mark Richt and so forth, and they did recruit pretty well. I mean, you're not going to wind up with guys like Aaron Murray and Todd Gurley without recruiting pretty well. The difference between recruiting pretty well and recruiting at the level that Kirby's talking about is the difference between winning a national championship and winning the SEC. And for a long time, there's been what's the best way to put it? The easiest thing to do is criticize the coaches for on-field things because we see that all the time. But the truth is, if you're not building your program uh, year-round through recruiting, you're not going to be able to make the type of adjustments, or you can make all the adjustments you want. They won't matter. And this is that statement, and the one after the win over the Gators this past year in Jacksonville is the exact reason and difference between Dan Mullen, who didn't work out but was run out of there too fast at Florida, and Kirby Smart. One has a national championship. The other one is no longer in coaching as it stands right now, at least not collegiate coaching. And that is, this is the crux of college sports. When you talk to guys who, I'm not even going to get too deep into who it is, but when you talk to college coaches, whether they're in basketball, they're typically very colorful anecdotes, or in football, they will tell you, I've got to have the Jimmies and Joes because you can do things with Jimmies and Joes that the coaches can't do themselves. They cannot manufacture points without really good players. And we're seeing right now um, a group of teams in this league, the SEC, excuse me, in college football, that are separating themselves. We talk about it all the time. Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama, not necessarily in that order. In addition, you've got the Texas A&Ms who are hanging out. Suddenly, Miami is surging in a very real way with the NIL situation. Um, we're entering a new world of college football where what the way you ran a program in 2019 doesn't exist anymore. Just think about this last 18 months. We got word today that UCLA and SC are probably going to the Big Ten in the next 24 months. Like they're probably giving notice in this week that 24 fiscal year is their last year in the Pac-12. That's number one. We've got Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. Those are just giant name brands leaving. What we are also confronted with is the reality of the transfer portal, as well as name, image, and likeness things. All of these things have created a fundamental earthquake, giant Richter scale type change in college football. If you cannot adjust the way in which you recruit today, you are done because you've got to have them, as Kirby said. You've got to have the players. We all know you are only as good as your players, and that leads you to recruiting. It can't be surprising that all three of the teams I keep mentioning are the only ones that have played for the national championship these last two teams. It's not been Florida State and Virginia Tech. You remember when Florida State and Virginia Tech played for a national championship? I'm not saying that will never happen again, but that'll never happen again in the current way we're doing things. It just won't happen. You've got to go out and recruit the way that Nick and Kirby have, and Ryan Day, and the way Miami's getting rolling now. I mean, it's all the whole. I would not be surprised to see Miami out of the ACC and somewhere, probably the Big Ten in the near future. If you pick up DAWGSTRUCTION today, okay, you are going to get our preview edition. It has come in. It has come in. This is jam-packed with nothing but Georgia stuff. If you want to read about Missouri or Boise State or USC, you're going to have to go to something else. And people do a good job with those magazines. They do. But if you want to pick this up, and if you like what you're seeing on the screen, you're going to love what you get with this magazine, okay? It is for you. It comes with DAWGSTRUCTION for free. You already got DAWGSTRUCTION? Awesome. DAWGSTRUCTION is too expensive for you? I get it. You can just pick up the magazine. The link is down below. But if you're not out recruiting and you're a college football coach, you are not ABC. You are not always B closing. You're not. And you're going to be sometimes winning. You're going to not win at the level at which the expectations of these schools. You talk about Texas. You don't think Sarkisian's got a giant expectation load on him now with securing Arch Manning? I mean, you got the big expectations anyway at Texas and Florida and Georgia and Bama and all these places. So you may as well go do it. Everybody doesn't have the patience that they had at Clemson, where they nearly ran Dabo off and then they didn't. Okay, everybody doesn't. In this league, your ass is Gene Chizik and you're gone. You're done. Jeremy Pruitt, gone. Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen. If we just step back and talk about Dan Mullen's career in this league, you are lying if you're saying he's not one of the most successful coaches in SEC history. He is. He is. And Florida fired him. After 3 10-win seasons, or whatever it was, 18, 19, 20. It probably didn't win 20. It probably didn't win 10 games in 20. Okay. But you get my point, right? The guy was very successful. Mark Richt, way more successful than Dan Mullen. 15 years of it, and people had had enough. You know, I remember that moment, and it was not elegantly handled by Georgia. Now, there are criticisms of Greg McGarity. Like, there are real ones, and then there are these, like, fantasy ones. A real criticism of Greg is he took too long to fire Mark Fox, and the way he fired Mark Richt was not done the right way. It should have been done differently than that. But, you know, firing people is not easy. So, Mark Richt is one of the top coaches in SEC history too. Higher than Dan Mullen. Gone. You got to recruit. That is what is the pathway to success in this league. If you don't do it, you're going to get fired. I don't know who's going to replace Nick at Alabama. They're not going to recruit like him. They're just not. Unless it's Kirby Smart. I mean, unless Kirby goes over to Alabama, whoever they get next is not going to recruit the same way Nick did. They're just not as good. I mean, those two are as good as we've seen in college football history in recruiting. Now, I'm not putting Kirby up there for the greatest coach of all time. Nick is, but in terms of recruiting, no. There's no. I don't know who's. Y'all tell me. I mean, who's been better over time? It's just. I mean, Urban. Okay, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer definitely. You could make the argument was better than Kirby in terms of recruiting. The only thing about Urban is though, Kirby's been at Georgia longer than Urban was at Ohio State or Florida. So, you could see you can see this investing that Kirby's been doing. As I always refer to recruiting as investing, because if you don't put the time in, you're not going to see it pay off at the end of the day, 2-3 years later. Well, really 6 years later, right? I mean, think about I saw Kearis Jackson play at Peach County in 2017. That was 5 years ago. I saw Warren Erickson at North Gwinnett. I don't even know how long. A long time ago. Robert Beal at Norcross, probably in 16 or 15. I mean, you go watch these guys play. It is years worth of work It is years worth of recruiting, and it's changing, but it's absolutely critical that you recruit at the level at which Kirby and company are doing, or you will not win national championships. We all know you are only as good as your players, and that leads you to recruiting. Yeah, you got that right.